Heck, oh,
There you go. Hey guys, good evening, and GM to everyone else all over the world. Welcome to another AMA with the YGG community. My name is John Tedano, and I'm here right now with my partner, the one and only Mr. Saratobi Sasuke. How are you doing, man?
I'm really good. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Welcome to another episode of our weekly AMA. Yeah, so today we have an awesome project to share with you guys. We have a very special guest, Kent Byers, the CPO of Civitas. Please do us the honor of introducing yourself, please, sir.
Hey, GM everyone. Thanks a lot. I'm super honored to have a chance to chat with you guys a bit today and talk about Civitas. So I'm the design director on Civitas. So I was sort of on charge of sort of designing the project and then kind of deciding like the overall features and product and kind of working with the team as we start designing things and doing it, of just making sure we're making an awesome game.
That's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. We were definitely pretty excited to hear about Civitas. We put together a few questions. I'm lucky enough to have found out quite a bit about the project, but for those in the audience, it'd be great to get a quick elevator pitch for what is Civitas. What can the YGG community expect from the project?
Yeah, absolutely. So Civitas is at its core a Forex strategy game. So for anyone who's kind of like new to that and what does that mean? Forex is kind of like an acronym kind of for these strategy games. It kind of means like explore, expand, exterminate, exploit, which is kind of this idea of these sort of like strategy games. And maybe you played Civilization in the past, and that kind of fits like under that genre type. So we definitely have our own take on that and like why we think it's like a perfect genre for blockchain and what we're trying to do with it. So while we are a fork strategy game, the thing that's quite different from us kind of to any of those other games that I mentioned is at a core, we're all about community and collaboration. So a typical Forex strategy game is a very single player experience. You might have your own kingdom, you might be the ruler of it, you're kind of building it up. Maybe you join a clan or a guild and you kind of go against other people. But for us, you're an individual person within that city, and you have to work together with like fellow residents to build that city and make that kingdom, develop your society and start competing against other players. So collaboration core is definitely at the core of it. And this is kind of done through like a Subdials system we can talk about a little bit later.
That sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty exciting. I've slowly been seeing like more and more games, from all the different genres, slowly transition into Web3. And I would say, like, I personally, my favorite is, strategy games. Maybe some RDS and some are there, but overall, like, I really feel that this is the budding point of online games, because it's different when you're playing a story mode by yourself, but then when you get to play with your friends, it becomes more engaging and more dynamic, and there's a lot of potential there. And I think that's where communities start to slowly bud and just continue to grow. But yeah, I mean, I think that this game, I would say, like, up front, like, I think it has the potential to do a lot of contribution to the Web3 and the GameFi space. But like, what I would want to know more is, how did this concept come about? Like, what made you decide that this is the project that we want to build, and we want to show to the rest of the Web3 world?
So I think a lot of it kind of came through some of the team. Like, definitely we have a lot of people on our team who worked on very big projects and part of like understanding games that need like really big kind of functional economies. So we have this kind of background of these type of games. But I think some of the things that really inspired us in the beginning was actually the kind of crypto community. I think it's something that definitely, and I've been working in games for about 18 years now. And the idea of like what I kind of saw with the community that kind of came around, like Axie and like people on YGG, the community that kind of evolves around these like Web3s is something that I've never really kind of saw in Web2. And you definitely see a lot of projects kind of talk about how much they love their community and how big impact they make on their project. But I never really kind of saw a game that actually got their community more directly involved in having to work together. And those were some of the first kind of steps that we had when we were thinking about like, where do we see something different? Like, how do we actually get this amazing community that you're seeing in Web3, but how do you actually get where they have to collaborate together? They actually have to be doing things to progress and advance instead of maybe just having a strong community on Discord or Telegram or something else. So that was kind of where it started. And then we kind of thought, well, how would we solve that? Like, how do we actually make this work? And that kind of led us into this idea then of like the Subdial system in terms of becoming like a citizen or of a city and working together, and how do people sort of like identify. So when you start kind of working on like games, it just starts with like a little bit of building blocks. You just kind of have some initial ideas. Maybe you build like a small prototype on just that one mechanic and you have fun. Like, will this be actually something people would enjoy doing? And then you just start kind of building on top of that, of understanding like the layers of the mechanics. So yeah, the first thing all started was the idea of just like, how do we make a community game actually be a community game? And that actually like really dictates a lot when you start thinking of a game like that, because when you start doing this, you have to start thinking like, well, what is the gameplay? How does that work? It's not necessarily us pushing out like a content or an expansion, like, hey, kill this boss, hey, go do this, hey, you win. That's really like the developer has to push content to the players. So we start thinking then like, well, this is something that you need. It's more about the tools. How do we add more tools to the players within the game and they create their own content within it? And again, that falls a lot onto a lot of our team's background, who were some like the original guys on EVE Online. So this really understanding of like emergent gameplay and how do you just make a world that's a one server, it's a living world, and gameplay moment to moment gets decided by the players, not necessarily the developers. So this became something for us, because definitely when we started making this too, we wanted a game that has a run. We wanted, hey, what is something people are going to be playing 5 years from now, 7 years from now, 10 years? And this really kind of shows when you make these kind of games, like the power of it. Like EVE just hit its 20-year anniversary this month. 20 years of people playing one game. And it really shows you the kind of power when you make these kind of community games, more about the tools and emergent content within it. So all these became like the foundations of it. And then different mechanics is just, as we explored it with the team and discussed it with everybody, worked out how that would be and how that would fit into the game. Those things get kind of inserted into it.
Awesome. I for one, Sedano has gone again. I for one, yeah, definitely, just like Sedano says, have also been like a big strategy game fan, RTS fan. Also played quite a bit of Civilization. Not sure if you got a chance to play much Civilization yourself, Sedano, but I definitely did. Yeah, I mean, from my memory, it was always, I definitely remember playing that in a kind of single player kind of experience. Yeah. Will Civitas kind of cater for like a kind of, I know obviously you're kind of hinting at the kind of collaborative, persistent universe concept. Yeah. Is there going to be like a kind of single player mode where people can like take their time and select the difficulty and kind of build to their heart's content? Is that something that you can imagine eventually being available as well? I mean, obviously it's maybe hard to feed into the economy in that kind of mode, but is that something that you think you'll also cater for as well?
So accessibility is really important to me on what people can do in the game. We're not really designing this as like necessarily like, hey, here's your single player campaign. It's like a one server, it's a living world with all the players in it, and it's always being developed, and you can just play your part in it. But with that, there's no going to be hard rules on how you have to play. And I think there's the really exciting thing, just even about like society we have now, is everybody's kind of doing their own thing. Like we're each kind of working at our own pace. We're all kind of making our own choices, but the greater whole is we're all kind of still collaborating and working together for something. And that's really going to be at the heart of some things in Civitas too, is that you as a player, you have a lot of sort of choices on how you might want to spend your time. If you want to come in just 10 minutes a day and play, there's totally a space for you in this game that you feel like you're actually collaborating, and your other players will still appreciate that effort. And if you want to come in and play a lot, you can. So there's this idea that not every path is going to be linear. You can kind of decide like, hey, do I really want to be working on my land? Do I really want to be building up factories and getting these things going? Or do I want to be just playing the market, understanding how things are trading and selling, doing diplomacy with other cities, or, organizing with the Subdial on strategy, going to like organizing if you're going to go to war or something else. And then we have the whole aspect of the things that we're doing in geolocation, finding resources or playing mini games in real world locations. So you have all these kind of things you can be doing, and none of it is a wrong, a bad, or a good choice. It's really up to you to do it, but there's going to be kind of incentives and goals within the game that you need this diversity of players to play the way they want. But again, it's the people kind of coming together. But we do have ways so you can be just kind of doing your own thing, but we want to make sure that you're always kind of feeling like you're part of something bigger always.
Awesome. I mean, it sounds great, man. Because like for one, I think that the next generation of RPG games will highly involve communities with different interests, different backgrounds, different types of gamers. Because I mean, in YGG in itself, like we have thousands of mobile gamers, we have hundreds of PC gamers. But like I think like the further down the road, like the interests of all these players, especially if you come from one community or one guild, it just intertwines, and you slowly understand these are the games that your other friends like playing. But then that doesn't mean that you will always have separate games. Like there's always going to be the chance where, hey, you know what, I see you guys are playing this game all the time, like let me learn it. But then that also comes to show that it will also come from you how you want to play the game. Like IB, as you mentioned, like would YGG come in as a merchant guild? Will we come in as a superpower? Or will we basically how will we utilize our resources? So there's a lot of dynamics that the blockchain gives these Web2 originally Web2 games now moving into Web3. And I think like Civitas, I think you guys have a really great shot at it. But for this to be successful, like I also think that the community also would want to definitely understand and get to know like the team behind the guys building Civitas. So what could you just run us through like the team? How many guys are you on like working on the project right now, and who do you often mostly work with?
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely our team are traditional game developers in the sense that, we've been working on a lot of games, but a lot of different platforms. So like I said, I think the majority of the team have been working in games on our side for, 15 years plus. And there's a lot of members on the team who honestly have like a track record of working on and developing the games that are kind of like the standard of what we kind of think is like great games today, or franchises that we compare it to. We have some of the original guys that kind of started, DICE for the first Battlefield game before EA was even in the picture. Some of the first guys that were like on the ground, working on EVE, people who were working on Star Wars before Disney was in that picture, Tencent and a bunch of other companies. So we've definitely been around the block a long time. And what I would kind of say with that is, a lot of us been working on games since like feature phone, PlayStation 2, or even before that. And you kind of see this technology switch every kind of 5 years in the game industry in terms of like what people are working on. And, very early on, we definitely saw, this space, and we kind of saw that was happening. But I think what we looked out for the most was just the idea of what we could do as like storytellers and game developers, like what tools and what tech was out there that kind of let us do the things that we want. Because great games really come from great technology. And at the core of kind of who we are, we're definitely a team with a very strong tech background. If people want to do some research on us, we've definitely been at the forefront of kind of what can happen with augmented reality on the phone. Twice we were sort of keynote speakers at Apple's conference, the only time a games company has done that. We have a strong partnership with a lot of big players out there, and we've always kind of felt great tech will let you sort of do the things that no one else can make, because a lot of startups pop up here and there all the time, but there's no shortcut to good technology and code. It just takes years of hard work and a team that has a focus with like a vision of what they want. And definitely if we've been building things, this is what's been leading us to Civitas. And we're really passionate about making a great game that we think is going to last. And we're putting kind of years of our tech team and proprietary tech that we have like into this.
Awesome. And, for the YGG community, when can they expect to jump in and start playing the game? Because I'm sure it sounds like there'll be lots of people excited to jump in and experiment.
I would say still a long ways to go. That's another side effect of great games. It takes time. But with that, we're pretty big believers that even when the game is in development and it's early on, you do need to get the community in. You do need to get them playing with you, because even if you're really experienced developers, there's a danger that if you get too focused on what you're building and you're just seeing that every day, you think there's problems that you don't see anymore. Either could be through the UI or the UX, or just something might be too difficult, but you get so used to it, you think it's easy. So we do have this, like, at least an ambition by sometime this year, as long as everything kind of goes from development, we want to at least start letting some of the community kind of play with us. And the game definitely won't be ready for release this year at all. That's not this year. There's no chance for that. But we do want to get something where we can get some community playing with us, start working with the developers. We can kind of then go through the last phases of development and just play with the community and polish with them. And yeah, we would definitely love to have you gaming experts like YGG on there with us.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure, like the community would be really, really excited. I mean, in the community, we actually have, a game testers program. So shout out to our game ops team. We have AC, who's right now here in our Discord. So shout out to you, man, for the job well done with, with YGG. But, like speaking of these guys, so we do have a dedicated group of, very, very talented gamers, where their job is to go into these games and find out how good it is and if it's something that the community will like. But then I mean, World of Warcraft took them 3 years from the date that they announced the game. But I do agree that it takes time. But I would want to I mean, before we get into the techie stuff with Saratobi here, like I would want to know what are your thoughts on the race for because there's definitely a race going on for Web3 games, and what do you think about like all these games that are are just basically on the rush to put out a game first, and then we think about everything else later, compared to like some projects like you guys where you explicitly say that like great things will take time?
I think it really depends on the type of game you're developing. Some hyper casuals, they thrive in getting something out to the community as fast as you can, and just like if you can rapidly change. I think there are games that have more depth and there's more things that you need to like onboard the player. Make sure your preference matches your vision. Especially when definitely think something out. It's a lot more things that is out of the game. And definitely for us, we create kind of complex in terms of what cool features that we want to add into it. And this year, the mindset like, hey, this is going to be a lot of work that needs to go into it. So I definitely think that you guys will, and the community will just start feeling better hearing that there's longer dev cycles. I think projects kind of caring more about polished content and the quality of it is definitely something I think we should be taking as like a positive in the space. It kind of shows that we're on the sort of the very edge of getting just a higher quality of just products overall. And I think it's a good thing. We should be happy about it.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I couldn't agree more, man. Like, if anything, if there's one thing that the volatility of the market is teaching us is having sustainable products. Like, are these products that we're getting into, are these something that we could build and come out in the next maybe in the next halving a lot stronger, or will the market just eat us alive here, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, but yeah, I mean, the guy himself, Mr. Saratobi, I believe, has a lot of like ideas about this.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I know that obviously, like, I do like to kind of dive into some of the kind of technical side of things, with the game, like, what you guys are doing. I mean, have you guys decided to kind of go for the mindset of having quite a lot of stuff be on chain, or kind of have you swung more to what's kind of a very emerging trend of having like lots of the kind of actions not be on chain? How have you guys approached that side of things?
It's definitely a constant discussion internally of like how much do we want to balance, which is going to be like on and off chain. And just like clear, like we're definitely like on the Ethereum chain, we're definitely looking, like I said, we're long term. So we're definitely looking at like L2 solutions. We're kind of agnostic which one it's going to be. But even with that, we want to sort of really plan out what we see that's going to be on chain and off chain for it. But I do feel that there's a lot of meaningful things that you kind of want to happen on chain too. And it kind of has a little bit of meaning if these are not just things that you need to be repetitive things that you need to do 10 times a day kind of thing. But yeah, we're sort of mapping that all right now, and we're trying to be as mindful as we can on like making sure it's not something that kind of impacts the gamer feeling like, oh, I've got to do another thing on chain again. We want to kind of feel like, hey, this is an exciting moment if you get that kind of opportunity, because what you're going to get out of it is a really big net positive. But yeah, I totally agree. It's something you need to be mindful from, and I think our engineers kind of bring it up every day. So it's definitely on the top of our list of our discussions.
Awesome. And I mean, have you guys got any particular L2 or sidechain in mind so far? I know it sounds like you haven't decided on any one particular one, but are there any kind of standouts?
We're testing all the current L2 solutions on Ethereum. So we're just kind of testing out, kind of see what's kind of giving us the best performance. But we're also kind of waiting for the merge to happen, and obviously there's some news today, like everyone's saying August. But again, like we're thinking long term. We're thinking like, hey, this is a game that we want to be running for the next 5-10 years or longer. What are the sort of trends? What is sort of the network effect with the community that we see on different chains right now? So we're very confident with like Ethereum, and definitely confident of what L2 is kind of promising. And definitely what we're testing right now, it's been great. We just, obviously there needs to be a bigger kind of overall kind of support across it. But again, like I said, we're so early and we're not thinking short term.
Awesome. And I know that earlier on, so great that I see a lot of the kind of most high quality projects kind of gravitating to staying on mainnet, staying on Ethereum or as close to Ethereum as possible. I know that you also kind of mentioned Subdials there, or within the game itself. I mean, obviously YGG has Subdials, but they kind of manifest slightly differently. Would love to kind of hear your thoughts on kind of Subdials within Civitas.
Yeah, absolutely. Subdials play a huge part in our game. It's what actually drives the game forward. So we are basing the world map on real city names and location. I guess that's like a little bit of a spoiler. We haven't really kind of pushed that out yet, but we are kind of using the idea of like real city names and locations. You're not trying to build a city though, so you don't have to think like, oh, I'm rebuilding New York. It's not going to be like that at all. But we are kind of using this as kind of like your city's subDAO kind of thing. So what kind of occurs in the game is players, once they kind of purchase land, they kind of have the opportunity, if they get land for that city, it kind of grants them an NFT, like you are a citizen of, Singapore at this date and time, blah, 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 blah. But it also kind of grants you all the access that you need to community channels. So on the right server in the channel, that NFT grants you access, just the Singapore channel. So you kind of meet all your other fellow like residents. And then you kind of start deciding like, what is the role that we play together? You have to sort of form your own council, which is sort of like a council that kind of works as sort of like your representatives to the city. They help make like your government decisions, or if you need to start spending your skill points and deciding how you want to be advancing your city. Also, they kind of track what different people in your city are sort of doing. So, citizens who are really contributing to positive things for your city, they can be rewarded from the city too. So each subDAO itself also has its own treasury, and each subDAO has its own mechanism through like a marketplace and other things that they can kind of earn revenue too. And this can be reinvested into the city itself to like upgrade it, or it can be used, like I said, to sort of reward good citizens who are sort of contributing for it. But what this kind of does then is it puts every city in a kind of system where you need to work together to kind of advance, but you're also competing at the same time. So another kind of 4X game that we're very influenced by is, and I'm sure you might have played this, is Settlers of Catan. And it's a board game, but this idea that, you know, everybody is starting off with their own resources. And the resources you get in Civitas are unique to each subDAO of what the players can kind of get in each city. So you can kind of get the things that you need, but you're going to find out other cities need to trade with you, and then you need to trade with them. But doing so is also helping these cities advance. There's a lot of sort of like politics and betrayal and sort of alliances that are going to kind of go on between these cities. But subDAOs also kind of identify you as like who you are. You know, if I join this city, I'm now with my fellow citizens. We all got like a common goal that we're going to be working towards together. And then you're also going to have common cities you have a conflict with. And we love this idea of that people who kind of be a part of something, you know, bigger than them. And this is like one thing that we loved about, you know, the guilds that kind of came on as strategic partners with Civitas, especially YGG. It's this idea that you kind of join something with fellow players, and you're joining something kind of bigger, and you're working towards getting something together. And that's really at the heart of like our subDAOs. You're going to find out all these players are playing together. And like I said, you can contribute maybe 10 minutes a day. Someone's playing a bit more, but you're all kind of working together. And as your cities are advancing and growing, you're seeing the work of a community make that happen. So subDAOs play a huge part. And you know, the NFT that you have will be kind of what grants you your governance within the subDAO. There'll be mechanisms where the citizens have to decide who's going to be, you know, their elected leaders that are kind of running for it. You know, like I said, you have your skill tree, your government types, diplomacy. If you go to war, all these different features will be completely player driven. And there's going to be some bumps for sure. You know, there's going to be a little bit of bumps as players kind of learn for it. But, you know, you're going to start seeing people really rally together and you know, find a way to succeed.
Sounds great. I just have like a real quick question. So okay, like I'm pretty sure like we have, you know, people in the community who are interested and, you know, you want to participate in Civitas. Yeah. So what are the prerequisites, or what, you know, what are the requirements for our community members to just be able to participate as early as now, you know, just to get a foot in the door with you guys? How does that work?
Definitely the biggest right now would be just getting involved with the community. We're showing quite a bit, you know, game design, art, and what we're doing, and just getting feedback, just understanding what people are liking and what they're not is actually the first step when you're early in development, is just getting understanding what people are enjoying about the project. So that'd be the first go at it. And then, you know, definitely as the game starts getting developed more, we have different ways that players can kind of get involved in the game once it's ready for release, either like a pure free-to-play path or a way that's going to be right for kind of guilds kind of coming in. And we kind of have a pretty exciting idea on how we see guilds kind of being involved in other sort of like really strategic partners. So in each city or subDAO, there's a very limited amount of land and even amount of citizens that can be in a city at any given time. And the players, it's actually up to the players that have to kind of work together to kind of grow your city to allow new residents to kind of move into it. So that's completely kind of player driven. But we have kind of special land, which will be just for kind of partners. And you can kind of think that partners want to kind of come into a subDAO and they kind of be a mentor or a type of like beat of like how to rally yourself. And when the game starts, there's only going to sort of probably be like maybe like one strategic partner per city. So it's really giving you this feeling that if like YGG is represented in a subDAO, that's just one subDAO that they're in, and you might guys have like a competing guild in a different subDAO. And so now it's really about your community working with the other citizens, rallying, and kind of having that kind of competition kind of going in between these different subDAO. There's going to be quite a few different ways to get involved. Definitely, like I said, the first is getting involved with our community and giving us feedback. You know, there's a lot of just OG kind of gamers on YGG that have a great insight of different games they're playing. and I think us getting that feedback really helps.
That's great that there's plenty of ways for the community to get involved with Civitas. Obviously, we're a very community-orientated project, so really excited. I'm sure our community as well will be very excited to jump on. So, other than say like Civilization or some of the kind of well-known RTS games, what kind of games can you imagine would you can kind of compare Civitas to? You've obviously mentioned Eve. I know I've kind of shot off quite a few there. I mean, do you think that those are sufficient in kind of understanding what Civitas is, or are there any other games that kind of come to mind when you from an influence standpoint?
Yeah, I think definitely for Eve, we were inspired just by it. It is sort of the peak of economy-based games in terms of like in-game macroeconomics. So, definitely we have a foundation of being builders in that, but it's also something that, we look at as sort of like, what you should be looking at in terms of how you run an in-game economy. And that's also why CCP Games came on as a strategic partner. We have a very close relationship with them, and they definitely saw what we're building and the things that matter to us and our vision, and that's kind of why they came on too. But definitely like the other kind of games that we sort of were definitely Civilization and Settlers of Catan. Now, like from that is like those are Slayer games like Civilization and not. So there wasn't really anything that was sort of like a direct comparison we thought we're building. But that's also why we're building this on Web3 and not just like a standalone game. We definitely look what you can be doing on blockchain right now and the tools that are there and being developed. And we're seeing at least a game that potentially it could be built on other platforms. It wouldn't be the same effect. It wouldn't have that same fun that we saw with like Subdials and community and this living thing. So, we're definitely thinking that we're treading some new grounds too.
Awesome, that's great. And a question that I think I'm going to turn into a common weekly question is, if there was any one game that you could have from the kind of traditional gaming world that could be a kind of blockchain game, like in your opinion, what would you like to see be a blockchain game that's not currently a blockchain game, but like?
I think you said in the beginning, what you guys said in the beginning is definitely like more games in the strategy genre. And the reason why we haven't is because they're not easy, and they're not something that you can just get done and push it out. And they're difficult games, and you have to craft it. But when you can build this world and you have things that people can really feel they're invested in, and invested in by me is like their time and like their enjoyment of like what they're building into it, they're really into it, then you have something special. And as gamers ourselves, like I said, I've been playing games longer than I've been developing them, but you also have the chance to sort of build the games that you want to play yourself. And definitely what I'm kind of seeing is these kind of games are just lacking in this space. So I want to play something like Civitas.
Great. So you're creating the game that you want to see in blockchain gaming. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That doesn't sound like a job to me. That sounds like fun.
That's the way it should be, right? Yeah.
Awesome. Fantastic. No, great to hear that.
So yeah, let's say that Civitas, let's say 2 years, 3 years from now, the game's released, a lot of people playing. Like there's just like this thing that keeps wanting me to ask you like in the back of my head. So let's look at Warcraft. It started as a single player RDS game, and later on people find out that all this time Blizzard has always been planning World of Warcraft. So Civitas is Warcraft was the first step in this whole saga of their whole company. Can we expect something similar from Civitas? If you do have any plans, like what will it be looking like, the next 5 to 10 years?
Definitely, like I said, like as we were designing this, we were thinking long term in the sense that like there isn't going to be multiple servers or server resets or anything like that. It's going to be just like one living server that's constantly people are developing their cities and advancing. So where do we see how that could develop in 5 years? We've had a few sort of discussions in terms of like where we see that, and we definitely see that the cities that really want to advance and really make it, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be a lot of work that players come together in terms of like how do you actually move a city from, say you're the tribal era when you're animal skins all the way to like a Blade Runner kind of city. This isn't something like a couple weeks. The amount of resources, effort, and time, and things needed, and other things that need research are difficult, and it should take time. It should be work. Like cities should feel proud when they advance their city to another era, and there's going to be a lot of things that get in your way, namely other Subdials. It's economic warfare. There's going to be things that you need to compete for on the map that very limited cities can do for. There's going to be conflict. There's going to be war. There's going to be betrayal, politics. You're going to have a city in Southeast Asia competing with a city in Latin America, and there's going to be a lot of grief. And it's going to be players have to work together to sort of get there. So it's not going to be easy, but I can say is the cities that can find a way to work together, they're going to enjoy the spoils of the roof.
Yeah, I mean, how about up and coming tech? Let's say like you guys have dabbled in AR. You have all these. Your whole team is quite experienced. With the new and upcoming like tools that we have in our at our disposal. What are the features that that we can, or tools that we could see Civitas like taking advantage of in the future?
So we're definitely very big into the future of AR and what it can do. So we are making really important decisions right now that players be gated from the game if you don't have an AR capable device. So I think it's important for us to kind of make sure that you're not blocked from the game. But at the same time, we do want this idea that there's enough incentives and has new technologies kind of coming out, we're developing and kind of moving with it. So kind of doing also with Civitas is I could be home playing on my PC. I'm investing in my land, I'm doing my stuff, and then I need to go to work, coffee shop, school, meet friends, whatever. Maybe you and I are going out for a walk, and no matter where we are kind of adding content around you. So you could be kind of picking up your phone, you have a virtual map, and you could be seeing different resources around you in terms of like mithril or other kind of ores or other rare things. And you have a character that represents you as like a citizen of like, what do you look like? And we've been showing a lot of art like that on our Twitter of like kind of what you could be looking like as a citizen. But you have your inventory, you can be crafting gear and equipping these things onto it. And you can be kind of gathering some of these resources and you can be bringing them back into the core game. And you can be either investing in yourself and crafting the things that you need for your land or what your city needs, or you could be kind of selling these off-chain resources like on the market for a huge profit to other players that really need this to make their own advancement. Because you might get like a rare resource on your map, and these resources are finite, so there's a very limited amount of these at any given time. And if you got it, like this has huge value. There's a lot of cities and a lot of players that need this to kind of advance. So, it's a really big kind of future thing. And what we're also kind of doing, and this is a little bit more just for fun and kind of breaking it up, but we have this idea of kind of adding these little tiny AR mini games that can kind of pop up around the map too. And these are kind of for players that are out there going around getting resources or out with their friend and they're kind of collecting things, but they can kind of break up that grind. And maybe you play like a game of like, AR Galaga or some other kind of mini game. And these are meant to be like really small experiences and 2 or 3 minutes long. but you have the chance to kind of win some resources or potentially even kind of win some tokens kind of playing these mini games. But we see these as like a fun mechanism where we can kind of add these games quite easily into the ecosystem, or even get the DAO evolved, and kind of release some of the tools that we've built for making like AR stuff, and get some of the community involved with us making some of these games too. And again, this is us really just thinking long term. We know like Apple's going to come out with AR glasses. We know AR is going to get better and better every year, and kind of slowly adding these kind of mechanics and features into your product, thinking like, where will we be in 5 years? Like you said, is at some point these things will just be expected. But again, great tools and tech can't just happen instantly. It takes years to build that. And we just want to make sure we're always at the forefront of investing in these things.
Fantastic.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so cool. So definitely some interesting stuff then with regards to Civitas for sure. Have we got some good questions from the community to address?
Yeah, well, we actually have one from Among Dags from YGG. So he's asking if there's going to be a free-to-play version, and what is the difference between paid and free-to-play, if there is going to be one.
Yeah, we absolutely have a pure free-to-play path into the game. So we're calling those players nomads. So what is a nomad, and what is that different from another player? So a nomad has a private piece of land. So they do have a piece of land to themselves. You don't see it on the world map, but you have a piece of land to yourself. You're able to get resources from that land. You can craft buildings and put the buildings on the land, get the resources you want from it, advance on that. You're able to engage with the marketplace in each sub-DAO, and you can kind of sell things or buy things that you need. You have full access to all the different resources that exist on the world map, and the geolocation stuff that we talked about. So you get a chance to collect these resources, play these mini games, and you can sell these for profit or use it for yourself. We're also kind of including a few ways that they can get NFTs to kind of join a sub-DAO, and that's where the difference ends. So the free-to-play players can kind of have access to majority or all of the game, but they don't get access to the sub-DAO, that kind of community part. And that's kind of going to be the difference for the people who were like citizens. But what we want to do is kind of make sure that we have a way that nomads, might want to try the game as free to play, but over time they can kind of decide, I want to be a citizen, and you can take all the items with you that you earn. So nothing's lost. And there's going to be gateways to kind of join a city, but definitely we definitely see being in a sub-DAO, that community is the most exciting part. But we want to also make sure that some people just don't know, and they just want to try a game and get into it. And we want to make sure that there's no barrier at all for people to get in and start playing.
Sounds great. Yeah, definitely for sure. Because I think like the trends, as you mentioned earlier, that the trends in the gaming industry like shift every 3 to 5 years. I mean, we've been coming from subscription model, moving on to free to play, and then now we have the mobile games, and now Web3 and GameFi. But then it's always good to have as many doors open for the community, and get as many ways for them to be able to experience Civitas. But yeah, I mean, it's something that I'm really excited about. But then again, I myself I've had a lot of fun back in the day playing RTS games, and I can't wait to now actually be able to play with other guilds. So I could imagine like YGG going up against maybe I don't know, maybe like Loot Squad or MT8 or Blackpool or whatnot, like these Web3 guilds who are not only involved in gaming but also are partners and also seed investors in other games.
Absolutely.
So there is going to be there's going to be some sort of how do you say it? There's going to be some sort like there's going to be a very strong connection between guilds, players, and other guilds as well. So having a platform like this, is going to be, I'd say, one of the playing fields, one of the battlefields of many that will be that will be available to players in guilds in Web3 in the future. So something to look out for, definitely. Yeah, sorry, Toby, how about you, man?
Yeah, definitely on my side. I, for one, as an ex-Civilization player and RTS fan, am really excited to jump in and give Civitas a shot. So just make sure that you get working on that game and and ship it ASAP. We're really keen to get in and actually just actively start playing really enjoyable games like this. I suppose obviously this is going to be a kind of PC-based game, so for those in the audience, everyone needs to start working on the premise.
Definitely was going to say we're cross-platform. We're very big believers in cross-platform, so we definitely have a mobile-first kind of approach. So definitely mobile and PC, you can play on both.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, that's even better news for the YGG community. That's my mistake there. So that's great to know that obviously people are going to be able to jump on mobile and play the game for sure. So yeah, absolutely. Let's make sure to keep up to date with where's the best places to keep up to date with Civitas other than say Discord and Twitter.
Definitely the best right now, for sure. Definitely on our Telegram and Twitter and Discord. We're kind of always dropping our first kind of updates there. And yeah, that's kind of where we're dropping our first stuff, and we're giving the first kind of leaks of what's kind of happening there. And definitely we're getting pretty close to announcing the first steps of our whitelist for our first NFTs. So definitely that's an interest, and I think players will definitely find it's pretty awesome what we're going to be having for these in terms of, like I said, we've been showing a lot of leaks so far with the characters that we're developing, and start kind of talking about what these mean in the game and how these characters kind of work soon. But definitely the interest in the whitelist is definitely going to be on Discord first.
Awesome. And don't forget that there's members of the YGG community on the Discord to help answer questions for people. Absolutely. Make sure to follow Civitas on Twitter, jump in the Discord to keep up to date with potential whitelist slots, and make sure to follow YGG, of course. And if you're not already in the YGG Discord, jump in and join the conversation. Hit the like button on our YouTube videos, follow us on Twitch and all that lovely stuff. Thanks, of course, to my partner in crime, John Sedano, for another great episode. And thanks so much, Kent, for joining us today. And as John always says, we'll see you in the metaverse, guys.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Awesome. And thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Bye.